Hello there once again, fellow peregrinos. Thanks for tuning in to episode 7 of the Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we discuss planning and preparation for the Camino de Santiago, as well as tips, tricks, and hacks to make your journey along the way to Santiago a little easier. With that in mind, making the journey a little easier, this episode we're going to talk about 10 things not to pack in your rucksack for walking the Camino. Now, these ideas have come from my own experiences of walking the Camino, what our previous podcast guests have said they discarded along the way, as well as comments left on Facebook groups and internet forums from your fellow peregrinos who've already walked the Camino too. So, with no further ado, let's dive straight into those 10 things not to pack in your rucksack for walking El Camino de Santiago. Now, I know the curiosity is killing you, so I'm going to give you the first one straight off the bat. A tent. Now, to some of you who know about the albergues, this might seem obvious, but I packed a tent with me for my first Camino thinking I'd sleep under the stars and have the flexibility of bunking down where I want, when I want. The reality is, a tent weighs a ton, and the juice just isn't worth the squeeze on your shoulder blades and muscles. By the time I had travelled from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, by the time I travelled to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port from my front door via train and plane, I couldn't take the weight of the tent anymore and sent it home at the post office. So, it is a much better idea to stay in the albergues. For those of you who don't know what they are, these are special discounted hostels for Camino de Santiago pilgrims that are conveniently scattered at frequent intervals all the way to Santiago de Compostela. So, just remember, a word of caution, you do need a credential to stay at the albergues, at the pilgrim hostels, and this is your pilgrim's passport. The pilgrim's office in Santiago does recommend you get it stamped twice a day along the way. You get all of those stamps at the albergues where you're staying, and you can also get them in the cafes, bars, and restaurants that you pass on the way. So, number one, just to reiterate, don't take a tent. There are plenty of albergues and hostels to sleep in along the way. So, don't take a tent is the moral of that story. Number 2, leave your water bottle at home too. A much better option is a flexi flask. These are pouches that can slip like a glove into the side pockets of your rucksack. They have a long tube that stretches over your shoulders and a teat from which you can withdraw water while you walk. That is a lot less effort than carrying a bottle in your hands all day and saves you from lugging your bag off your shoulders every time you need a drink. Okay, so a flexi flask is definitely the way to go. Which brings me seamlessly on to number 3. You don't need to carry water purifying tablets or filters with you. There are lots of water fountains along the way and enough villages, towns and cities where you can buy supplies to keep yourself hydrated when you head out into the wilderness. If you do end up refilling your water supplies at water fountains in the towns or villages, instead of buying bottled water, there are 2 magic words you need to look out for. And those words are agua potable, which basically means drinking water. If you were to say it as you read it in English, that would be agua potable. I will put a little sign to these, a little sign for an image of these signs on our Facebook page, Camino de Santiago Pilgrims Podcast, so you can visualize exactly what I'm saying and you know exactly what to look out for. And a word of caution, if on the fountains you see the words agua not potable, you've probably worked out already that means it's not drinking water. Or you may see the words prohibido beber, prohibido beber, which means don't drink the water. Like I said, I will put images of all of these signs on our Facebook page, Camino de Santiago Pilgrims Podcast, so you can visualize exactly what I'm talking about and you know what you're looking for and what to beware of. So, number 3 is don't need water purifying tablets or filters. Number 4 of our 10 things not to pack in your rucksack for walking the Camino de Santiago is a first aid kit. In episode number 3, Dina Corcoran, our guest from Australia, recommended not to take this because she said that she ended up not even using most of the stuff she had in there, and also that if she did need something, she would have been able to buy it along the way at the ubiquitous pharmacies you see in every settlement you pass through. So instead of loading up with plasters, bandages, ointments and bottles of stuff you might not use, you can buy them on the fly if and when you need them. So if you do need to pop into a chemist on the way, look out for the big green flashing crosses all the chemists have outside their shops to grab your attention. So they have big green, all the farmacias, as they're called, always have big green flashing crosses. You'll see them very, very often in the towns and villages and cities you pass through. So look out for those, and for that reason, you won't need to take a first aid kit. If there are some things that you know for sure that you're going to use from your previous experience, such as sports tape for blisters, or some mini scissors for cutting your toenails or anything like that, then obviously, or your nails, then take them by all means. But if there's stuff that you're not sure about, then why not leave it and you can buy it on the way if and when you need it. Which moves us on to number 5. If you didn't know already, there are yellow arrows all the way to Santiago along the Camino showing you the way. So you're not going to need to take maps with you. If you do get lost, you could always use the following phrase to ask the locals which way to go. And that phrase is very simple. It's ¿Dónde está el Camino de Santiago? ¿Dónde está el Camino de Santiago? Which means, where is the Camino de Santiago? So you can be sure most of them will be very helpful and will wave their arms around in typical Spanish expressive style to get you back on track. Now, I know from my studies when I was studying to be a football coach that we talked about ways to get our message across. And often the term was coined that one demonstration is 1,000 explanations. One demonstration is 1,000 explanations. There's a lot of shuns and shush in there, so I hope that articulated okay to you all. And the moral of that story is body language will get the message across. So even if you don't understand what the locals are saying, they'll be sure to be waving their arms around and raising their eyebrows and using whatever way, any part of their face or their body they can to convey their message and tell you where to go. And often it's just fun to have a chat to the locals anyway. I remember being in a place called Los Arcos on the Camino Frances, which is just before you cross the La Rioja border in Navarra. And I was hobbling along the street with my blisters. I had terrible blisters at this point. I was probably about a week into it, 6 days in, and some lovely lady chased me down, started speaking at me in Spanish. At this point in my life, I didn't speak any Spanish, and I didn't have a clue what she was saying, but she kind of bequeathed a magic kind of shiny packet in her hand, and there was a pill in it, and anyway, she got the message across that I should pop it under my tongue, and it was a homeopathic remedy for my blisters. And I took it, and nothing bad happened to me, and my blisters did eventually clear up. So maybe she helped, maybe she didn't, but it was just fun to interact with the locals in that way anyway. And yeah, that'll be your excuse to do it. So you don't need maps, is the long-winded way of saying that. You don't need maps, because there is a yellow arrow road showing you all the way. Save your weight and don't take maps. Save your space. Leave them at home. Number 6 is don't take a towel. Not a domestic one, anyway. you want to take a travel towel instead. These are smaller, they weigh less and dry quicker, but still do the all-important job of getting you dry, which is what we want our towel to do ultimately. So, sorry I started swallowing my vowels there again. Where I'm from in Essex, we tend to say towel. So sometimes to say towel costs me a little bit. But anyway, I hope you're understanding my my colourful dialect. Anyway, yeah, so yes, don't take a domestic towel, take a travel towel. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put a link to an example of a travel towel on our Facebook page. You know what it is by now, the Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, so you can see what I mean. And it'll be lovely if you could give us a like while you're there and tell your fellow peregrinos all about it as well. So, relating to the issue of weighing less and drying quicker, that brings us neatly on to number 7 already, flying through these. Number 7 of our 10 things not to pack for walking the Camino de Santiago. And here in this 7th point, we're actually going to give you 2 points in one. So, we're going to recommend that you leave your jeans and cotton at home, according to besthiking.net website. And I'll put a link to this article so you can read it yourself, and it goes into a lot more detail on the following points. But the problem with these two materials are, and I quote from the aforementioned website, besthiking.net, they absorb too much moisture. And of course, when we're sweating very much on the hot Camino terrain, that could be a problem for us. They're poor at regulating temperature. In the hot climate of Spain, that is also going to be an issue that we have to deal with. They take a long time to dry. And if you're carrying around wet clothes with you, that's not good in your backpack, and it's not good on your body as well, because if your clothes are wet, then you could be losing body heat, and that's never good. And most important of all, perhaps, is that they are heavier. Okay, so now don't worry, I'm not suggesting you walk naked or only in your underwear. On another great article on the same website, hiking.net. Sorry, I get a little bit excited when I'm talking about this and ahead of myself, and the coffee seems to start having an effect. But so, on another great article on hiking.net, they suggest that polyester and nylon clothing is more suitable and combats the aforementioned issues of wearing cotton and jeans. So, the more of the story is, jeans and cotton are your kryptonite. Polyester and nylon are your amigos. And like I said, I have put links to the aforementioned articles on our Facebook page, so you can read in details about all of those points and the reasons why those materials are good and bad when we're hiking the Camino de Santiago. So that was number 7. This is number 8. While we're talking of clothing, it's probably not a good idea to take your favorite clothing with you on the Camino either. It's going to get hot, sweaty, and potentially wet if it rains too, especially in Galicia, which is infamous and notorious for quite a heavy rainfall. You'll probably end up binning it or ritually burning it on the cliffs at sunset in Finisterre. If you don't know already, that is one of the many rituals of the Camino, which is in itself is probably a good idea for another Camino podcast. Rituals on the Camino, but we'll come to that maybe another day. They do not recommend, but it is a ritual, a tradition that when you get to the cliffs at Finisterre, which before Columbus discovered the Americas, it was believed that Finisterre was actually the furthest western point in the world, and it was believed to be the end of the world. So when medieval pilgrims arrived at Finisterre after passing by Santiago de Compostela, they would burn their clothes on the cliffs at sunset, which would signify the end of their old life and the beginning of their new one, hence shedding the skin of their old self. So I did that when I got to finish there on my first Camino, and it is a very poignant and moving moment, and the sunset is incredible. It is like the size of the sky, because as you know, the sun sets in the west, and it is a spectacular sunset. I highly recommend walking on to finish there. So, and that gets us back to the point, was don't take your favorite clothing with you. If you've got some lucky underwear you're attached to, maybe, I don't know, from your favorite football team, or it was given to you as a present by a loved one, and then that may be an extenuating circumstance, but definitely leave your favorite, most treasured or expensive attire at home. We're now moving on to number 9, the penultimate item of 10 things not to pack for walking the Camino. And that item is books. If you really do like a read, you can always download the Kindle app on your smartphone and stick your head between the covers of an ebook. And the good thing about that, like I said, is the Kindle app on your smartphone is actually free. All right, so you wouldn't have to take an extra Kindle with you. You can have the Kindle app and carry that on your smartphone. Now, I am an advocate of connecting to nature's sights, sounds and smells, and giving your brain a rest from the information overload smartphones can cause. So this is just an idea, and I appreciate some of you may agree or disagree with this, but it is just an idea. And what I'm going to do on my next Camino, on my last Caminos, I had a smartphone, but I always had it switched off in my bag. But you could take, if you are kind of always happy to have your smartphone in your hand, you could take the SIM card out while you walk and remove the temptation to check social media, emails, the news, or other nuisance notifications. Your brain will thank you for it. Like I said, that's just a suggestion. And I appreciate for those who like to keep in contact with loved ones while they're away, that might not always be possible. But you can always put the SIM card back in your phone when you're done walking for the day and check in with friends and family. But I am an advocate, and I do believe in turning your phone off while you walk, because for me, doing a Camino is all about recharging body, mind and spirit, and giving my brain a rest from the constant notifications and buzzing of my phone. And for me, it's like just like rebooting or recharging your phone. The Camino is plugging back in to the energy of the outdoors and the nature and wilderness, and I always feel better and lighter and clearer in my head for having done that on the Camino. And I do notice the difference in how I feel. I do feel better. I do feel clearer. I do feel more energized by doing that. I recommend you try it too. You can do it for a day, half a day. You don't have to do it at all. Like I said, I'm not the pilgrim president or governor or preacher, but this is just my own method, and you can try it or not try it. But I found it really, really does help me get the most out of my Camino, and I reckon it will help you too. So just to reiterate on that one, download the Kindle app for free on your smartphone, buy an ebook, and that way that saves the weight and space in your backpack. Deep breath before we move on to number 10, because I feel like I've got on my smartphone. There it goes, always in our consciousness. Did you know that studies have shown that we look at our smartphones 150 times per day, and that we will spend an average of 5 years staring at a screen by the time we pass away? Scary, scary, scary thought, that one. So, yeah, let's give ourselves a break on our Caminos, and let's disconnect from the World Wide Web and reconnect to Mother Nature, which is what thousands of years of genetic program and evolution has trained our bodies and minds and brains to do. Okay, number 10, let's get on to it. Talking of smartphones, Instead of carrying a universal adapter for your charger to charge your phone, you could take a European one which will weigh less. Okay, and while we're talking about charging your phone, you can leave behind that external battery pack too, because we're promoting the idea of using your phone as less and as least as possible. Removing the SIM card while you walk will mean it will use less battery, and we're also recommending that you charge your phones at albergs. Sometimes the plugs can be in very high demand at the albergs, but you more often than not do find a moment where you can charge your phone. And you can also, if you go out to eat somewhere during the day or when you're done walking for the day, you can charge your phones in the bars and cafes along the way, which will mean that, number one, you don't have to take that external battery pack, which is, again, more weight. And we're trying to say less weight means more walking and more fun and less pressure and force going through our knees and our joints, which will enhance our Caminos and mean we enjoy our Caminos more. And to that end, we are not going to take our universal adapter. We're going to invest in a European one which will weigh less. Okay, so European adapters, take those, leave behind your universal adapter and your external battery pack, because you're going to try to charge at bars, cafes, restaurants and at the albergs along the way. So, just to run over one more time to summarize our 10 things not to pack for walking the Camino de Santiago. Number 1 is a tent, because you can sleep in the albergs. Number 2 is a water bottle, because you can use a flexi flask, which is a much more convenient way to water while you walk. Number 3, water filters or purifiers you can leave behind too, because there are plenty of fountains and shops along the way where you can fill your water supply. Number 4, first aid kits, because you won't necessarily need all the things in there, and you can buy them at the chemist on the way if and when you need them, as recommended by our guest in podcast episode number 3, Dina Corcoran from Australia. Number 5, maps are not essential. You can leave those behind too, because there are yellow arrows, showing you the way all the way to Santiago. I had the theme tune to Is This the Way to Amarillo in my head then. Is this the way to Santiago? Anyway, the coffee's kicking in there again. Domestic towels, because they weigh too much. You're better off investing in special, lighter, quick-drying material. Check out our Facebook page, Camino de Santiago Pilgrims Podcast. Give us a like, and you can click on our link showing you exactly what I mean by that. Number 7. Talking of lighter, quicker drying material, jettison your jeans and confiscate your cotton. You should wear polyester and nylon clothing instead, because, as we said, it is lighter and dries quicker, and it's more kinder to the hikers. Number 8, leave your Ralph Lauren shirt and Calvin Klein pants in the wardrobe at home. They'll get ruined by the sweat, heat and wear and tear of life on the road. You can slip into them when you get home to celebrate walking all the way to Santiago. Number 9, instead of bringing your books, I've gone all northern on you there. That's how they speak in Rachel, where my fiance is from. Instead of bringing your books, not your books, download the Kindle app for free on your smartphone and get your nose between the cover of your favorite ebooks. Instead, to save or wait, okay, and take that SIM card out while you walk. It's just a message I'm trying to place in your subconscious there. Connect to nature, disconnect from the web. Reboot our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. That's what we're trying to do. That's what I love most about the Camino, is waking up at sunrise and going to bed at sunset and just reconnecting to the essence of what we are. And that is, I think, we are born to walk, born to exercise, and born to be outside. Number 10, no need to take a universal charger, which weighs way more than a simple European adapter. Leave the external battery pack for your smartphones at home too, and instead take every opportunity to recharge at the albergues, restaurants, bars, and cafes along the way. And this promotes you to use your phone a little bit less. Okay, so we're encouraging you to disconnect from your device and reconnect to Mother Nature and the electric energy that being outdoors brings to us. Okay, we're going to reboot. That's the idea. So there you have it, fellow peregrinos. Your 10 things not to pack for walking the Camino de Santiago. So before we finish, I'd like to say a special thank you to all the listeners we've got around the world. According to my analytics, we have listeners in America, so to all of you guys across the pond, howdy, and I'm tipping my pretend hat to you all. In Australia, good day. In Spain, buenos dias for those listening in Spain. For those in England, how you doing? Lovely it's good to have you here. In New Zealand, I don't know any kind of colloquial expressions from New Zealand, so hey, thanks very much. In Sweden, tusen tack. In Brazil, bon dia. In Germany, guten Abend and Dankeschön. In Canada, thank you guys very much too. In Norway, tusen tack. In South Africa, thank you very much. For those of you listening in Colombia, we should say muchas gracias. And in the Netherlands, we should say dank u wel to you guys too. In Egypt, I guess you speak a bit of French there, so we're going to say merci beaucoup. In Portugal, muito obrigado. In Ireland, top of the morning to you. That was my very bad Irish accent there, sorry. In Romania, I'm going to say narok. Cheers to all you guys listening. In Peru, muchas gracias. In Italy, buongiorno y grazie mille. In India, thank you very much. In Malta, I don't know any Maltese. I know it's quite a lovely language to listen to and a nice blend of Arabic, Italian and English, I think. I don't know. Maybe someone can correct me on that one, but I know you speak very good English there too. So thank you to those of you listening in Malta. And that is where people are tuning into the podcast from all around the world. If we click on the UK geographic locations, I know there's people in Reading, Southend-on-Sea, which is very close to where I'm from. Chorley, very close to where my fiance's from. So absolutely mind-blowing to think it's being heard in all of these far-flung places. So thank you very much for tuning in. I should just remind you and inform you that there won't be a podcast episode next week because, ladies and gentlemen, fellow peregrinos, I am going to get married on September the 14th. I have my stag do, or as you say in America, bachelor party, or in Spain, my despedida. So my friends have told me to be afraid, very afraid. So hopefully I'll still be here by the time the next podcast is due, and that's going to be on Friday, the 20th of September. So, wish me luck with that one. Wish me luck with my wedding. I can't wait to marry the love of my life, Rachel Lee. Looking forward to my wedding next week. I've got friends coming from all over the world, and I'm so excited to see them all. Really excited to get married, and for that reason there's not going to be a podcast for the next 2 weeks. But Friday, September the 20th is when we're back. If you can't wait for another podcast till then I highly recommend you check out Dan Mullin's podcast, My Camino. He interviews pilgrims from all over the world. He interviews authors, he interviews movie directors, and it's a great listen. So if you can't wait until then, definitely check out Dan Mullin's podcast, My Camino. And if you like that, please remember to also check out his Camino-themed album that he's just released as well. It's called Duende. It features a Camino-themed song called Somewhere Along the Way. Sounds reminds me very much of the Gambler by, I think that's Kenny Rogers. I could be wrong, but great song, Somewhere Along the Way. somewhere along the way. Hope you found what you're looking for, somewhere along the way. What a beautiful song. Gives me goosebumps just singing it. Check out the rest of his album. It is a musical masterpiece. And like I said, that is called Duende. D-U-E-N-D-E. Duende, which is a Spanish word, apparently, Dan says, for that moment just before the tear is about to drop. So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow peregrinos, until Friday, the 20th of September, when I will return and speak to you all as a married man. Very exciting times. Buen camino, fellow peregrinos.
Wanderer, life adventurer, said he's a secret philosopher. He's a wandering wanderer.